Hello.
Jesus Christ, Fi.
I know. Listeners, we thought we would just check in and just provide a little bit of bonus content.
Yeah, just hey.
Hey.
How are we all? Are we all like a little mental health check-in for us all?
Mm-hmm. It's been a wild 12 hours of news.
It truly has. Fiona, would you
Sorry. Can you tell we're highly strung? So we thought we would come to you today, not with anything to do with any episode of The West Wing, but just with, as Leigh said, a little check-in regarding Biden's stepping down from the presidential race.
Yeah, so what happened, Fi? How did you find out?
So I was working a truly, truly dull shift in a pub. And as I want to when I am bored, I was just scrolling through news apps and it was like breaking news. At which point I was like, everyone shut up. The world is about to change. I immediately text you in all caps because I have no chill. I was like, Leigh, wherever you are, turn on the news.
And I was like, I am backstage at an Edinburgh preview. Fi, I can't watch the news. You need to tell me what's happening.
Leigh's like, I'm actively in a basement. Help.
I was actually in an attic. Thank you very much.
Sorry, it's either the top or the bottom of the house. That's all I'm going to say.
No, yes. I was at an Edinburgh preview. My last Edinburgh preview before we go up to Edinburgh. The wonderful Christopher Hall was on stage. I was like beside myself. I was like, wow, what I wouldn't give to live in a precedented time, Fi. What I wouldn't give. This is a historic moment. Like, I need to explain to you what this has never happened before. I was so stressed when he got COVID. I was like, it needs to happen. He needs to drop out. The fact that he has COVID on top of everything else is so stressful. Obviously, with like love and peace, I hope he feels better. Oh dear Jesus, I was so stressed. And then when I received that text, Christopher Hall was still on stage. Then Christopher Hall came backstage and I was like, Biden's dropped out. And he'd like just finished his show, been like, ladies and gentlemen, I've been Christopher Hall. Have an amazing rest of your night. He runs back out on stage and is like, Biden is out. The posh girlies of Clapham, did they give a shit? No.
No, they're not engaged in to that level, I think.
Yeah, it was crazy. It is crazy.
Yeah, I was stuck to rolling news for the rest of the evening.
Yeah.
Okay, so I guess like Leigh, the question I have, my stupid question is like, what does this mean?
Who knows at this point, Fi? I really wish we'd done an episode that was like, what even is a primary? Because we've missed the chance for a primary at this point. It is too late. The primary is when the American public gets to vote on who they want to be the Democratic nominee.
Right.
And obviously, Biden didn't really have anyone running against him. And so he just was the presumptive Democratic nominee. And
that's where that leaves us, right? Is that like there was no primary and the Democrats don't have someone coming up their sleeve. I mean, like it looks like it's all going to Kamala.
Yes. I mean, obviously Biden has endorsed Kamala. Kamala did run in the Democratic primary against Joe Biden in the 2020 election. I mean, full disclosure, I voted for Kamala in the Democratic primary in 2020.
Yeah.
I think she's phenom. The question is, does she have enough time to build a campaign? I mean, ultimately, the goal is still the same, right? The goal is still beat Donald Trump because Donald Trump has promised on day one to essentially turn the American presidency into a dictatorship. Like, democracy literally hangs in the balance. And do I think that the Democrats have a better chance today than they did yesterday? Probably.
It feels like, I mean, the waters are turbulent out there and the news is, there's so much to read about. And like the thing that I was reading this morning was that like Republicans are now saying like that Joe Biden should resign as president and hand over to Kamala Harris from now on. Like his decision to step aside in the presidential race, they're like, well, that just means if you don't think you can serve another term as president, you shouldn't be serving now.
Yes.
Which is crazy.
Yes. I mean, that feels kind of largely academic to me. It doesn't feel like a key priority. I get that it's like an angle for the Republicans to use.
I mean, it's coming from Mike Johnson. And as we know, he is a vile, vile man.
Yeah.
Mike Johnson, Speaker of the House.
Yeah.
Who is it? What's the name of the app?
Covenant Eyes.
Oh my God. But yeah, his quote was, if Joe Biden is not fit to run for president, then he's not fit to serve as president. And then he said he must resign the office immediately. November 5th cannot arrive soon enough.
Yeah. I mean,
Grim.
What Biden said was, it's in the best interest of my party for me not to run. So he's not claiming that he can't run. What he's claiming is, I see the polls and I see that I probably can't win.
Do we think we would have preferred him to have had this realization perhaps 6 months ago?
Oh, 100%. We're grateful that he's had it at all.
Yeah.
We're very grateful that he's had this realization at all. Would it have been preferable that it was 6 months ago when there was still a chance of having a kind of normal Democratic primary? Yes. But then I suppose there's the argument to be made that, like, when you go through a primary, you do come out a little bit battered and bruised because you've had other people from your party arguing against why you would make a good president because you have other Democrats running against you. Now, Kamala Harris obviously had that 4 years ago. Kamala Harris is not going to have that this time. I mean, I'm saying all of this assuming that Kamala Harris is going to be the new Democratic nominee. Obviously, Biden endorsed her in his speech where he announced that he was dropping out of the race. It would seem like she would be the obvious choice in that she has the most name recognition of any other possibility.
Yeah.
And it does feel like name recognition at this point is going to be the most important factor.
Yeah.
Because if the Democrats now come out with somebody that nobody knows who they are,
They can't do that.
there's not enough time for people to be educated on that.
No. And I suppose the upside with Kamala standing is also, like, she's been in the room
Yeah.
throughout the last 4 years. Like, she's been in the Situation Room. She's been in the Oval Office. Like, she is used to having conversations on that level. Like, okay, she, like you say, she hasn't done all of that graft work in that, where she essentially you're getting kind of picked apart and having to pull together like who you are as a presidential candidate. But in terms of like boots on the ground experience, she's got more than anyone else that the Democrats are going to have.
Absolutely. Also, she's been an attorney general. She's been a senator. She was on the Senate Judiciary Committee. She was and I would highly encourage anyone who is perhaps a touch uncomfortable with the idea of Kamala Harris or is unsure about Kamala Harris, her questioning in the Senate Judiciary Committee of Brett Kavanaugh in his Senate Judiciary hearing to become a Supreme Court justice is one of the most important things to me about why I think she's a phenomenal presidential candidate. She's been a prosecutor and she's an incredibly capable politician.
Yeah.
And at this point, all I'm asking for is a capable politician.
Yeah. And I do think that, you know, come November, there's a possibility that the majority of the American public won't be voting for a capable politician.
Yeah.
Because I don't know. It is crazy out there right now. Like I can't imagine the stress I would feel if I were a US citizen. And I say that sending much love and best wishes to all of you guys.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I just think like never has a vote been more important. And like making sure that you're signed up to vote, making sure that you are ready and raring to go on voting day, because like every single person who can put an X in a box now more than ever, like your vote counts. I think it can be a very easy thing to be apathetic about the power of your vote. And especially, I imagine, living in the States with the Electoral College, you're like, well, you know, at the end of the day, my state is always going to swing this way because of X, Y, and Z. But honestly, like, especially in the face of like what Trump is, as you say, like insinuating he's going to do if he is reelected, like exercising your democratic right to vote is more important than ever.
Yeah.
And I think that the last kind of 12 hours of news has really proved that like politics is this continually moving game, right? And what is, you know, something that one can scroll through on their phone on a news app or on social media actually is going to have like incredibly real life repercussions on thousands and thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people across the world for the next 4 years.
Yeah.
And so I think it's easy for us to be like, oh my God, like see a Grandpa Joe, or like, you know, Kamala is brat. But actually, the reality is that like, which by the way is stunning, just like Charlie XCX endorsing Harris. I have no notes, but I just, what I don't want is for the fact that there's this constant news cycle to make people feel like that's political engagement enough.
Yeah.
Actually, it's going to be about going out and actually voting. That's going to
100%. And you may be voting to have the chance to vote again. Like if you don't feel hugely enthused about the Democratic candidate, there may be a Democratic candidate that you would want to vote for in the future.
Yeah.
And you're voting for the chance to be able to vote for that person. I say that as someone who's quite enthusiastic about Kamala Harris.
Yeah, but still, I think you're right.
I understand that people have their reservations about her record as Attorney General.
But there's been similar conversations happening in the UK surrounding the latest UK election, which was, there was this big push to get Labour back into government. And a lot of voters were like, well, I'm not kind of crazy about Keir Starmer as leader of the Labour Party, or the policies or the manifesto that's been put forward. But I think there was an argument to be made, which was like, okay, well, that in itself is a very valid standpoint. But let's get the Conservatives out of government. They've been in government for a really long time. We're just going down the same road with them, which is leading nowhere good. And let's see where we're at in 4 years' time. And that I can understand as a voter is not fun politics.
No, it's not. It's not being like 18 years old and being like, I'm casting my first vote for Barack Obama. I get that it's not that experience. But I also can't think that we can't take away from the fact that if Kamala Harris is nominated at the Democratic National Convention, she will be the first woman of color to ever be nominated for president by a major political party. And I don't think we can take away from what a huge historic moment that would be, even if it's coming out of the most chaotic circumstances imaginable.
For sure. And I am really behind that being unprecedented.
Oh, completely.
That is the only sort of unprecedented news I can get behind.
I mean, yeah, just the current situation, like Biden dropping out at what is essentially like not the last minute, but the minute before the last minute is like, it's like I'm living in a season finale in a way that I never asked to. It just feels like we're in like season 437 of Grey's Anatomy and there's nothing to do but just like kill everyone off and start again. Like it just feels like the writers are at their wits' end and they're like, what can we do that's dramatic? And this is what they've come up with to try and like push their ratings back up.
That is the energy. So with that in mind, Leigh, does that mean that we have to wait until the Democratic National Convention to get like full confirmation that Kamala Harris will be the presidential candidate for the Democrats?
I mean, given that we can't have a primary where people vote for her, that will be the moment when it is official. I would be shocked if it was anyone other than Kamala.
Okay. And how long do we have to wait for that?
So the Democratic National Convention is Monday, the 19th of August through Thursday, the 22nd of August.
So we've got a decent amount of time now to kind of wait. I wonder, I'm assuming that Kamala Harris will just like start to campaign as if she is the candidate.
Apparently, according to the New York Times, Kamala Harris only found out that Biden was dropping out of the race on Sunday, on the day that it happened.
Yes, I also read that.
So she has a lot of work to do now to actually put a team in place, because obviously she's been running as vice president up until now.
Yeah. It's going to be a really tricky time, but I think from what I understand, Kamala has a very strong team.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of Kamala's team from when she ran in 2020 now have roles in the Biden administration. So they are now working for Joe Biden. They weren't necessarily on the campaign team. Like, for example, Karine Jean-Pierre was her chief of staff before she then became press secretary, taking over from Jen Psaki. So I cannot even imagine the day at work that Kamala Harris's team had yesterday. If any of you are listening, you won't be listening because you have no time even to sleep, but just know that we're sending you vibes.
Yeah, sending you love and prayers. One of the fun pieces of news this morning that was shared around was that a photo of Kamala Harris photoshopped Jeffrey Epstein into it, started going viral on social media, which was a crazy smear campaign by the internet. Because actually the person in the photo that they put Jeffrey Epstein's face on was in fact just her husband, Douglas's body. So people were like, well, that was quite recently when they were on the red carpet together. So like, that's not real.
A shout out to Doug.
Doug, I bet, has been doing some great work.
Also, famously, Doug would be our first gentleman. So we would then have a glotus.
Don't.
No, wait, that doesn't make sense.
Gotus.
Gotus.
Oh my God, that's even better. Gotus. Okay, we can't dream. We can't dream. As you said, we're in unprecedented times. Who knows what's going to happen? One thing that I did read about, which I only understood because of the lesson that you taught me, is that because Harris and Biden share the same campaign committee, as far as the Federal Election Commission, our good friends, the FEC, Harris can now use the general election funds that Biden's campaign had been raising.
Which is amazing, but also several key campaign donors had threatened to freeze that funding if Biden didn't drop out of the race. So hopefully they like Kamala better as a nominee.
Yeah, be really interesting. I just think that the next maybe week is going to be a juicy time for political news coming out of the States. And just like, you know, I love a doom scroll. I love to get dragged into, down the rabbit hole of the internet. But just like to our wonderful listeners, especially those of you who can vote in the US and maybe feeling slightly overwhelmed by what's happening, like now is a great time to also practice some social media hygiene and just every now and then be like, I'm going to put my phone away, or I'm not going to have notifications on while I'm having my dinner or when I'm in bed. Do what I can't do and put down the phone maybe.
It's a spicy time to have New York Times notifications on your phone. I will say that, especially with the time difference, because it means that the New York Times is sending me notifications right when I'm like trying to fall asleep each night.
But yeah, we are going to keep abreast of everything that's happening. And as and when we think it might be worth us tapping back in with another little bonus moment, we will do. But
yeah,
here's to kind of, I guess, holding on tight until the Democratic National Convention, Leigh.
Yeah. Dear God.
Yeah. Well, I don't think let's not bring him into it.
Oh yeah. I do go on a lot about church and state to now be bringing Jesus into it as much as I am today.
Okay, Leigh. I'm going to go and make an uncaffeinated beverage to try and calm myself.
Oh, you're so good. I'm going to have a coffee. I'm going to know myself and I'm going to have a coffee.
Do what Josh Lyman would do. Have a strong coffee.
Yeah. Oh, also, final point. We obviously don't know who Kamala's VP pick would be.
Yeah.
So that's a fun question.
Fun question out to the ether, out to the listeners. Bets are on for VP.
CJ Craig?
A girl can dream.
Charlie Young?
Charlie Young for VP. I'm going to make t-shirts.
Joey Lucas?
Okay, yes, this was the lightheartedness I needed to end this.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, okay,
All right,
stunning, love,
Speak
amazing.
soon, gal.
Speak soon. Hang
Bye.
in there. Stay calm and turn off your phone. Go on flight mode. Love to you all.
Bye-bye.
Stay safe out there, kids. Bye.